And I would like to invite here Johannes Figueroa from Chile and Geneva to present his project. You're welcome.
No. No. The second or this one. So, good morning. I am Johan Fierro. I'm from Chile, an architect urbanism, former at the University of Chile and the University of Geneva, where I based now. So, I will present to you, well, first, apologize for my English, but usually I speak French or Spanish, not English, so I will try to make it. So, this project is the issue of my bachelor degree of architecture. It's the ecological restoration infrastructure at the Copiapó River in a post-mining degraded landscape in Tierra Amarilla. It's in the north of Chile. It's this zone here. So the summary, first, I will make a contextualization about the theoretical principes and the territory, the context of the problematic. And the second time, I will make a territory reading about the context and the problematic description of the who based the proposition. And finally, I will present to you the project, it's ecological restoration infrastructure. So, topic and territory. Here is a photography of Tierra Amarilla and of the mining activity, mining operation. So, first, the basis is about the political ecology and the landscape theory. So, the landscape is alive to the extent that it possesses functional force. So the possibility of care consists in qualitative improvement, in cultural correction, in adaptation of its function. That is so important to me because in the north of Chile and with the introduction, the historical introduction of the mining activity, the landscape has not this functional and this coherent function with the proposition to continue. Here we have so many conflict, socio-environmental conflict in Chile about the extractivism, principally in the north of Chile, because it's here where are based the mining activity. And so many of these conflicts are the water, like the principal element of conflict, because the stakeholder of the mining activity take the water for him and don't less water for the human habitation. So this is the region of Atacama. Here is the Copiapó river basin. And in Atacama, we can observe, we can find 15 conflicts about the activity of the mining. And that is the landscape. Here is the Bloom Desert, that is the mountain. And here is the zone, agriculture zone, where is a slogan about the conflict of the water present in the zone. Here is about the introduction of the mining activity, like a new stakeholder who have a confrontation with the perspective of the landscape at the with the habitants of the zone. So the conflicts around extractivism exposed at the depending of commodification over social relations and the consolidation of the first step of some process over the nature. So in Chile, with the economical structure we have, the activity of the enterprise is fierce than the habitation of the population. Here is to contextualize the activity, the mining activity in the region. We can observe in the zone, the central zone, a concentration because the coverage of infrastructure and to the facilities to ship and export the mineral. Here is the zone of extraction. And here is the toxic deposit and rock deposit around the zone of the mineral activity. In the section, we can see a concentration in the central area because it's the small and medium scale activity of extraction, and the highest are in the high of the mountain because we have the possibility, the technological possibility to extract the minerals. So, like a question for the project is, where are the externalities of the mining activity on the territory, and how could they be intervened to offer solutions for the urban and territorial project? That propose the continue with the second one part with the territory reading. And here is divided in two scales: the scale of the river basin and the scale of the zone of Terra Amarilla is the city where is placed the project. So first, in the basin region, we can see the concentrate of the population around the river. So here is the most biggest city, is Copiapó, where is the rich people who abate and is have the benefit about the mining activity. And here is the zone, the poorest zones of the zone is Terra Amarilla, where is placed the mining activity and the poor people. Here we can see the agriculture development in the zone. This zone is the first transversal valley and is the limit of the desert of Atacama. So the water is we have a rich water, like a context, natural context, and it's for that here in the zone is a historical development of an irrigation infrastructure to can development the agriculture. Here's the hydrography. Is a desertic zone, but it's the limit zone of the desert. So we have the water like an element so important, and we have a landscape is structured by the water and the river of the Copiapó rivers, but is affected by the mining activity in the zone. Here, we can see the different aquifers who composes the basin. Central zone where is concentrated the mining activity, and also is the zone who we have the biggest volume of water in the zone, but it's a water who is not the aquifer have a process of recuperation, but because the mining activity, this process is not completed. So it's a level is down and down and down by the years. And here is the mining activity. That is the already showed you, but we can see the concentration of the toxic depots and the mining activity. And but the important here is a study who show us the toxification, the pollution of the river, and with different elements, toxic elements at the long of the Copiapó River. So the second scale is the Malpaso Subbasin. Malpaso is the infrastructure, the irrigation infrastructure who structured this system. And here have this name because it's the zone where is coverage is underground. In this zone here, the Malpaso canal is underground, and here we can see the photography where is underground. So here is the river, and the canal, Malpaso, and here is the river who doesn't have any more water. Here is the aquifer and the drilling wheels. The drilling wheels is the most important source of water in this zone because the river doesn't have a flow. And here we can see different photography to characterize the landscape of the zone of Tierra Amarilla, who is the river but doesn't have any more water. And that is a process from the 18th century, no, the 1918, who start to disappear beyond the time. And here is the Tierra Amarilla, where we can see the concentration of mining activity active. And here is the Copiapó, the rich zone of the city, where this zone of mining activity are closed because this is a zone of habitation and that was closed by that. Here is the landscape, the characteristic landscape of the zone of Tierra Amarilla, where we have the zone of agriculture, where it doesn't work because we don't have the sufficient water to irrigate the zone of agriculture, but we have the water to the mining activity. That is a map synthesis of the zone, and we can see the zone of agriculture, who doesn't work, and the zone of mining, who have a conflict with the stakeholders and the inhabitants about the water. In Tierra Amarilla, we can observe this confrontation of a stakeholder and an active conflict about the water access. And for the project and after of this diagnostic, I make a social reconstruction and valorization of Tierra Amarilla landscape with stakeholders, important stakeholders. This one is made with Leonel Lecaros, is the director of the planning, the CERPLAC, is the planning office of the municipality at the Tierra Amarilla, who says the river was very beautiful before. There were many small hills where you could go to refresh yourself. The river have a valorization like a public space. At Terra Maria, we don't have public space a part of the river because you have only equipment who are financed by the mining activity, but you don't have a public space financed by the municipality and access with the population need. So he said, if all of this was green before and now is gray, fig trees, chañares is a type of trees. It was all songs to the river. And another one is that with Don Zoilo Jerónimo. Here is a representative of the indigenous community in this zone, the last indigenous community, and he said the same. But this person identified the problem as the responsible of the degradation landscape are the mining activity, but the high scale mining activity, because the activity of the mining is a historical here, but a small scale. So the people go at certain period, go to the mountain here to take the mining, the mineral, and after go to the sun here to sell this mineral. So here we observe the processes of transformation, and here's Terra Maria, and that is the zone of the mining activity since 1984, and the process is the transformation of the landscape and the geography. Here is an older past who was covered by the mining activity, and that was through an ecological I don't know the word. Yeah. Okay, and this is the project, project proposed by the government of Chile about the restoration of the river, because in 25M in 2015, flood, we have a flood because the mining activity changed the landscape and augmented the risk, the natural risk. Well, this is a synthesis, a cartographic synthesis of Terra Amarilla, who I showed you all of this about the ecological restoration infrastructure. Here is the proposition. The proposition is the goal of the project is to structure an ecological infrastructure at Terra Amarilla to revalorize and activate the environmental and public space along the river through an ecological process of restoration, where the water is the principal element, because it's a kind of water landscape who was degraded. So this project is structured in 3 zones. Here is the zones project proposal by the group. Here is the zone of water treatment, because it's already a water treatment infrastructure, but it's an older processes. And here is a restoration of the landscape with a public space along the river, who connected the central zone, the historical central zone of Terra Amarilla with this zone of the project. Here is the strategies. The project is structured in 4 strategies. The first one is the programmatic platform with the interpretation center at the zone of water treatment and a zone of public space being linked with the zone of the river. Here, the second one is the green infrastructure river and the different elements who alimented the zone. That is important because this strategy have a goal to recuperate the level of the aquifers. So I proposed 3 pools of water infiltration to the aquifers, who have the source of different elements. Here is the flood mitigation is linked with the proposal of the government of Chile, and here is linked with the urban development and the different housing zone who was constructed in the building in a few years. Here is the plan, the general plan, and we can observe the different zones and the integration with the river. We have the 3 pools, and the first one of mitigation associated with the different period of flood. There is 25, 50, and 100 years. This zone is a zone of vinculated at this platform, the public space with pools to the urban recreation. And here is a zone of gray water treatment vinculated, linked with the zone of housing. That is the different layers of interventions. And that is the project show in sections. And the principally here is the augmentation of the river section, because now it's only like that, it's a canalization of the river, and the proposal is to renaturalize this river to can mitigate flood and to try a public space, a huge public space to this small city. Here is the 3 pools of water infiltration. The first one linked with the flood. The second one of the great water treatments, and this one is about the recomposition of the biological environmental, like the different kind of animals and the different kinds of native vegetations. And finally, here is some renders of this project. Here is the terrace of flood with the sun of the ecological recuperation and the sun of the public space. Here is another one with the way at the side of the project and the different terrace who was designed for the floods, and here's the public space.
I would like to welcome here Professor Christa Reicher and Mary Anders from Aachen University.
So good morning, everybody, and thank you for inviting us for this really interesting event. It was really great to listen to your different presentations, so we are really happy now to have a presentation which consists of 2 parts. In the first part, we will introduce the spatial strategy of the Rheinische Revier district 2038 plus. And the second part will show the implementation of the intangible cultural heritage. And the second part will be done by Marie Anders. We both are coming from the RWTH Aachen University, Faculty for Architecture, and Marie Anders, she is architect and the head of the working group called Cultural Heritage and Building Quality. And she's part of the group with me and other experts working on the Rheinische Revier. And I'm the head of the Department of Urban Design and the Institute of European Urbanism. And at the same time, I'm the chairwoman of the so-called Revierknoten, and I will explain a little bit what this means. So in former times, I just want to address it to the colleagues who announced the Ruhr region. I was working for 15 years in the transformation process of the Ruhr region, how to develop this really important industrial area, how to use formats like the International Building Exhibition to promote new ideas and to promote the landscape for the post-industrial region. So, but now we are talking about the Rheinische Revier district, and I imagine that only few of you know where it is and what it means. And therefore, we want to explain a little bit the question we are asking in our process how to organize the structural change. And we are in between a process which is looking on a specific way, in a specific process to construct a new region based on the former qualities. Just to show you about what region we are talking. So the black spot in the middle is the Rheinische Revier, and it is based in the Blue Banana and in the Rhine Alpine corridor from Genoa to Rotterdam. So it is a region in the center of Europe, and at the same time, it's part of a triangle between big cities. You may know Cologne, Düsseldorf, and Aachen. And these neighborhood countries like Netherlands and Belgium are just our neighbors. And one of the big questions would be how to link our activities to what you are doing. And the presentations this morning, they created a lot of impulses, what we can do in the future as a network. So coming to what we are talking about, we are talking about Europe's greatest landscape construction site. Regarding to the political decision to phase out lignite mining earlier than expected before, latest at 2038, based on the Paris Agreement. This is our political decision. We have the task to look, what does this mean for these biggest landscape construction site? And you can imagine that the fears of the people, the fears of the companies, what is happening with our jobs? How can we earn money? What does this mean with this wasted land? What new technology can be used is one of the biggest discussions. And also the question, what does it mean to make this region a part of the big Green Deal? Because the political announcement is for us to show how we can transform this region as the first climate neutral region in Europe. So the first CO2-free region. So this is what we have to fulfill as planners, as architects, as a part of a bigger team. And I want to give you a short introduction how this process is organized. So we are one of the so-called Revierknoten. This is a kind of expert group or specialist group called Revierknotenraum, but we have other groups which are dealing with education, with industry, with agribusiness, and so on. And in the middle of this construction, we have a future agency. This is the head, the umbrella of the different 7 Revierknoten. And we are working closely together with these different Revierknoten. And the first task we had to do to write a kind of memorandum, a structural program, how to manage the structural change from the different point of view. So here in this memorandum, you find how we want to organize the process, how, for example, the different approaches are linked to each other. And if you look, for example, on the outline, we want to have a region which is luminousy, which has a high-end performance for the region, which has a lot of innovations, and climate neutral region, and a networked region. So, so we are financed as a part of the university from our ministry, not the Ministry for Planning, but the Ministry for Economy, Innovation, and Digitalization. And this is interesting because you can imagine that there is a competition between the different ministries, who has a hat on for this big process of transformation. And we are financed as our department from this ministry, but we are, let's say, working in a close relationship with Jülich, our head, let's say, our organizational head, the future agency. So, and to give you a short introduction, how we are now working on, we are just, let's say, in the middle of our process, we were working on different layers and formats and tools to organize this kind of process. I don't want to refer to every point, you can read it. We call this strategy an integrated view from different perspectives and disciplines, and this is needed. Our colleagues from the mobility, they are our, let's say, main partners, because we are sure that mobility must be linked to settlement, because otherwise all these conclusions and these efforts are not really convincible. And what is important is that we are looking different ways to introduce the single building which is supported with public money into the bigger picture. And we have to show that this single project gives impulses to the whole region. So, and then we developed a lot of layers. How now you get a short introduction into what layers we designed as working group. Here you see the economic layer. So we made a kind of survey of all firms of, let's say, all enterprises which are also suffering from the end of the coal production. And this is the question: where should new areas be constructed to develop new industry and new production site? But we were also looking on the settlements. Yeah, we have a fragmented landscape, which you can see here. And we have the issue of mobility. There are different expectations from the sector of mobility to have a climate neutral mobility, to have a more public space, and to use the former rail tracks of the industry to construct a new track line. And this has to be combined with the idea of landscape. When you look at this landscape, it's not a traditional landscape. It has also suffered different phases of a former construction, management and construction change. So, and a big issue is tourism and recreation, because on the one hand, we have always to argument this project and this plan produces so much new jobs, but we are talking about an attractive landscape, because an attractive landscape is attracting enterprises, firms, and so on. So this is our main idea of argumentation. So, and all these layers, it's just a short introduction into these layers, you find on our homepage, and it is a growing homepage, which will inform you and the public authorities about the status quo of what we are doing. Just to announce a little bit what are the objectives and what is the outcome. So based on this spatial analysis, we are, let's say, looking on a pragmatic and on a spatial approach with guidelines, with a kind of announcement of priorities. How could, for example, the new settlement be constructed? It is completely different from a former landscape. It has to look on qualitative approaches, on sustainable ideas of implementing settlements. But what is also important is that, for example, we want to produce pictures and plans which are communicatable with the public authorities and with the population. We have a formal plan, but when you look on this formal plan, you understand nothing. And people who are looking on these plans, they are looking on on the outcome, but it is, let's say, not really understandable for everybody. And we want to look on communicatable images, which can be somehow a first step to make this process understandable and interesting for everybody in this region. And we are speaking about a region which has 2.4 million inhabitants. So half as large as the rural area, but twice as big than an Pas-de-Calais. Yeah. So just a short look on the process. So the first phase is, we call it space diagnosis. So we looked on all the plans which were made during the last 15 years. Then we have first phases, which is just started. 3 international planning teams are developing different ideas for the whole region. And then we make a phases which is called deepening and concentration. And then we merge the best outcome of all these 3 pathways to come to a spatial vision. Now we are here, yeah. We had the kickoff in June about our process. In 2 weeks, we have the first workshop with the planning teams and so on. But what is important that we don't start at 0. We look on every plan which has been made during the last 15, 20 years, and we made a collection of all these plans. And we offered the planning teams this information, because otherwise there will be a big discussion. They are inventing something new. We have already plans. And what is going on with these plans? So, and therefore, we collected a lot of information and made the first space diagnosis for the different layers, for settlement, for mobility, for whatever. And then we overlapped all this information and took a first outcome. And what you see here is a transformation area plan. In the middle, you see 3 big lakes, and you see the center part of the region, and you see a first green belt, which is based on our diagnosis and which is based on all the master plans for this. So this is, let's say, the view from now. In the middle, the 3 lakes, the big lakes in the former holes. But you also see these violet points. These are the power plants, which are a huge potential for the whole region. These are the huge transformation areas, and they will have a huge impact on the future activities. So, and what is interesting? Yeah, what is interesting? We did a lot of scenarios. What would be the best way to develop the region as a kind of polycentric region? Or should we develop only one city in the middle of the heart? This is really use digital tools to collect the meanings of the population. And we have a lot of other formats to strengthen the whole process. And these are general questions. We can discuss them afterwards, but we want to support our formal planning process with this kind of broad, visible, informal planning process. And we want to have a system of layers, which is a growing system. And Marie will show us how this growing system is working.
Okay, in terms of time, I will hurry. Yeah, I will hurry up. So, okay. So we have learned about the 7 specific groups and about their issues. And there's one thing missing, because when we talk about reshaping the future together, the together is a little bit forgotten sometimes. So we have the hardware in different layers, but it is quite hard to make the intangible cultural heritage tangible, but we try to do it as a specific layer. Maybe you can go on. So I don't want to go so much into detail, but as you can see over there, 39 churches were demolished due to the process, and there's a lot of things that stands behind. So we have the community, and like one of these holes is as big as one city, like Aachen. And when we go one further, maybe time is over.
Huh? Can you?
Yeah, So I want to show you the method how to implement the cultural heritage. So there are two important aspects. The first one is that the material cultural heritage belongs to the intangible and other way around. So if we know this, we have an address where to search for. So yeah, here we can see that the material cultural heritage is always has a clearly location, and the intangible cultural heritage shows a cultural region and is not border cross. Is sometimes border crossing and yeah, is showing a macrocosmos. And when we know these two facts, we came to this atlas with 24 students, which shows the intangible cultural heritage in the area, and which describes the area from another point. And we want to give 3 short examples. One is the football pitch, where there come some questions about the relocatability in the case of the pedestrian accessibility and the land availability, which is not so easy in the area. And then this is the voluntary fire brigade. And it's really interesting because there you can see that the grainness of the different areas is different and that the rural area is not the same. And then the third one shows that there are belonging corridors in between this area, and yeah, that all these different aspects are aspects which are forgotten sometimes due to the process and which have to be feed back into the special strategy. And with this, I want to end up because the time is over. But if you're interested, you can look it up on the website. Thank you.